Hello! In this lecture you're going to learn how to open an external text file in Python and how to extract the content of that text file and display it with Python. So here we are with our program. The way to open a file and read or extract the content of that file is by using these two lines, basically. So I told you earlier that a Python program, the structure of a Python program is made of data objects such as lists and dictionaries and strings. And so it also is made of functions which do things on these data objects, such as a print function is printing out these strings in here. You also have methods which are like functions, but for the sake of simplicity, let's say you have functions and data objects, since methods do the same thing as functions, but in a slightly different syntax. And so now I'm going to close this script and demonstrate you how to open and read text from text files from scratch. So this is the basics folder. It's in this directory, home pm1 basics, and here we have this sample.txt file in this directory, which looks like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a program that opens that text file in Python and reads its content and displays, it prints out the content of the text file on the terminal. The way to do that is you want to create a variable where you want to store the file object, like you have list objects, you have dictionaries, and you also have file objects. So that will be equal to open. Open is one of the built-in Python functions, just like print. And so the open method is what creates a file object, just like the input function would create a string given some user input. So it gets user input and it converts it to a string. The file object will convert this file into a Python file object, because Python here behaves just like a text editor, let's say Microsoft Word, which is used to open a text file. For example, you can open this sample.txt file in Microsoft Word and display it in Microsoft Word. In this case, we're not using Microsoft Word, we're using Python. And so then we want to create another variable where you want to store the text of that text file. So those three lines, apple, orange and banana, will be stored in this file as a string. Once you have done that, I want to print out the string. However, there is one more process here that you want to add, which is myFile.close. What this will do is it will close the file object, and this helps to release resources from your computer, so to release memory resources. You can also remove this, that won't be a problem because this is just a small file, a few kilobytes, so it won't do any harm, but it's a good practice to basically close the file object once you are not using it anymore, because after this line we're not referring to the myFile object anymore. We created a variable, stored a string in that variable, and we're printing out that variable, but we don't need myFile. So close this, save it, clear the terminal if you like, and run the script. And this is what we get. So the content of the text file was printed out successfully. Let me demonstrate one more thing through the Python interactive session. So we were able to open sample.txt, and if you do a type myFile, you'll see that this is a special object. It is called text.io wrapper. You can call it a file object. That's how everyone calls it, and that's how it was used to, and that's how it was called in Python too. So that's the reason why everyone still calls it a Python object, a Python file object, not a text.io wrapper. Anyway, this myFile object has these methods now. So we use the read method. There are other methods as well that we'll cover later. No. myFile.read will give you this. As you see, we have this \n characters here, which seem to be not in our text file, but these are actually break lines. And when you use the print function, here we didn't use the print function, but if you use the print function, these will be displayed as break lines. So the print function basically knows how to display these. But anyway, now you know how what these are. I'm going to talk about them later. For now, if I again execute the myFile.read method for a second time, we will get an empty string. So why is that? Well, in Python file handling, there is the concept of the cursor. When you're just opening a file with the open function, the cursor is at the very first position of the text file, so just before the first character. And then when you apply the read method, the read method will read the text and it will move the cursor down to the last position, so just after the last character. So no, after you apply the read method for the first time, the position goes at this point here. Therefore, if you apply the read method for the second time, the read method will read under the cursor. That's what the read method does. And so under the cursor there is nothing after the last character. That's why we get this empty string here. If you want, you can move the cursor up to the very first position, to position 0, using myFile.seek. And then if I apply myFile.read again, you'll see that the text is there. That's the idea. You can also use print if you want to see it in a well-formatted style, like this. And yeah, that's what I wanted to teach you in this lecture. I'll cover some more about handling files in the next lecture. See you there.